Diving into Newton's theory of mechanics, we find that it consists of two main branches. The first, which we've been studying so far, is called kinematics. That's a description of how objects move, and it involves relationships between their positions, their velocities, and their accelerations. The second branch, arguably the more important one, is called dynamics. That is more of an explanation of why objects move the way they do, and of how the interactions between objects cause them to change their motion. So, to see the relationship between kinematics and dynamics, let's first summarize what we know about kinematics. Summary of kinematics. Okay. We could say that if you know the position and the velocity of an object at one moment in time, and I say object here because in classical mechanics we're going to be modeling systems which consist of zillions of particles as single point particles. We're going to take an entire system and collapse it down into an object. We take our system and collapse it into a single point particle called an object. So if we know the position and velocity of that object at one particular moment in time, and if we know the acceleration of that object at all times, past and future, then we can determine where the object will be and what its velocity will be at all times. We can know its entire history. We can predict its entire future if we know its acceleration at all times and we know where it was and how it was moving at one particular time. So the key here is that we need to know the acceleration of an object. If we know accelerations, we can figure out velocities and positions. That's the main result from kinematics here. Therefore, we want to be able to determine the acceleration of an object at any time. That's our new goal. Because from what we know of kinematics, if we know its acceleration, we can get its position and velocity. So our new goal is to determine accelerations. And that is the goal of the subject of dynamics, to determine the acceleration of an object at any time that we would want to know it. The first principle that's at play is this idea that objects accelerate only when they interact with each other. So interactions are going to cause accelerations. So when objects interact, we say that they exert forces on each other. This term force means what objects do when they interact. A force is always an interaction. So, combining these ideas here, we have the principle that if interactions cause acceleration, then forces cause acceleration. And so this entire subject of dynamics that we're now going to get into is all about forces. And we can sort of summarize the whole thing like this. Dynamics is going to be the study of forces, which are interactions between objects, and those forces cause acceleration. And if we know acceleration from kinematics, then we can figure out position and velocity.